Highways look empty at night. Safe, clean. But I learned something out there. Not everything traveling the road with us is human. Mark driving home late from work, long highway stretch, tired, just wanting to get home. I should have been grateful for the silence. It was just me, the hum of the engine, and the wide ribbon of asphalt stretching ahead beneath the faint halo of the dashboard lights. My work shift had ended hours ago, and all I cared about was the moment I could push open my front door, drop the keys on the table, and collapse. The late-night highway was empty, free of traffic, the kind of drive you almost forgot you were making because it felt safe, predictable. I inhaled deeply, let my shoulders relax, assumed the road would carry me home without incident. I didn't yet know that safe roads don't always stay safe. I glanced at the rearview mirror and froze. The car behind me wasn't just following, it was mirroring me. I changed lanes and it changed lanes. I eased off the accelerator and its brake lights flickered in sync. I sped up, heart pounding, and its drivers glared back through the glass before accelerating too. The beam of its headlights felt wrong, too bright, like someone had adjusted them deliberately so I couldn't see beyond the glare. Every time the road curved, I noticed it adjusting. Unchanged distance behind me, always there. The highway should have been the land of escape, the wide, open road where you're free. But in that moment, it felt more like a trap. I tapped the horn, nothing. The driver didn't flinch. The engine behind me didn't idle down. It matched every move. The normal trip home twisted. My safe lane shifted under me, and I realized, sometimes something is not following you by accident. I pulled off at the half-lit gas station, the yellow overhead lights flickering as if laboring under the weight of the night. I told myself this would be the break I needed. Stop, stretch, refill, breathe. The highway felt distant now, hidden behind the pumps and the hum of the station's air compressor. I watched in the mirror as the car pulled in too, sliding into the bay across from mine. The engine cut, the lights stayed on. The driver never got out. For a moment, I convinced myself it was just another traveler, tired like me. But then I saw him, or maybe it was her, studying me through the windshield, motionless, waiting. Safe had turned into something else. I wanted to leave, but part of me was already frozen. I walked into the station's fluorescent-lit convenience store like everything was normal, thinking I could just pay for a coffee, step outside, and hit the road again as if nothing had happened. My hands shook slightly, but I forced myself to act casual. The clerk behind the counter was an older man, bald at the crown, his uniform crisp as if he'd just started his shift, but his eyes were too still, too calm. I asked about the pump number, glanced outside at the car in the lot, checked the rearview mirror on the wall. Without breaking his composure, the clerk said quietly, almost too softly, "Don't look behind you. Call someone. Now." My breath caught. I froze. For a second, I thought he was joking. He wasn't. His voice carried something like panic buried under the calm, like he'd said those words many times before, but hated doing it. I realized then that the car waiting outside wasn't just a coincidence. The horror that followed wasn't about action. It was about waiting. I left the fare transaction unfinished and took my phone out. In that moment, I wished for anything but normal. The clerk leaned over the counter, his eyes dark beneath the harsh fluorescence, and said something I wasn't entirely ready to hear. "That car you see outside, it's been linked to disappearances along state highways for years." It sounded like he was reading from a police blotter, and maybe he was. He explained how several drivers reported being followed, then found their vehicles abandoned or themselves unable to remember stretches of the journey. Official records? Sparse. Investigations? Shut down or inconclusive. The local council and police couldn't confirm anything. Rumors, he muttered, that it belongs to someone dead or something dead. The words hit me like ice in the blood. I looked back out the window. The car sat unmoving, headlights now off, silhouette haunting in the dusk. He slid a business card across the counter. "For help," he said gruffly. I didn't ask what kind. I didn't want to know yet, but I knew I'd need it. I slipped out the back door of the convenience store before the clerk could blink. The fluorescent glow of the station's front bay disappeared behind me as I sprinted between the pumps. my breath sharp in the cold night air. The clerk's head briefly appeared at the window, his figure blocking the overhead lights for one long, heartbeat pause. I fumbled for my phone and dialed. My fingers trembled as I heard the first ring. Then, outside in the darkness, the screech of tires cut through the quiet. I stopped dead. My heart exploded inside my chest. The car, my tailing car, was accelerating into the lot. I didn't wait. I turned and ran to my own vehicle, hands shaking on the door handle. I made it home. I pushed the keys into the lock, inhaled the dry relief of being inside, and sat for hours staring at the ceiling as if it might replay the chase in the darkness. I told myself it was over, until, nights later, I saw it again. That same car, gliding past in the rearview mirror maybe half a mile behind. It didn't accelerate, didn't brake, it just followed. I didn't know what it was or what it wanted, only that it refuses to stop. I shut the curtains, left every light on, changed routes to work, but the glint of its headlights still finds me. And I still wonder, who or what is driving that car in the night? Check your rearview mirror. If the headlights don't look quite right, don't go home. Don't leave it there. Story 2. I hardly remember the moment I left the funeral home. Just the weight of grief wrapped around me like an old coat. My bags were packed into the trunk before dawn, and I set off on the long cross-country drive with nothing but the hum of the engine and the empty highway ahead. The miles stretched out in flat monotony, dark asphalt, yellow markers, nothing but the steady beat of my own thoughts. I pictured the town behind me shrinking into memory, and I welcomed the emptiness. It felt like a chance to breathe, to escape the voices that whispered in the funeral parlor about what should have been done. I believed the road would carry me away, and for a while, it did. I saw her standing beneath a single streetlight, miles from civilization. The highway stretched infinite and black around us, but there she was, a figure, almost still, under that lone pool of warm yellow light. At first I thought it was someone I could help, just another lost traveler in a sad, long drive after the funeral. Her position seemed absurd, one working light in the middle of an endless darkness, as though the road itself had reserved a spotlight for her. I slowed the car, glanced at my rearview mirror. No other lights, no other cars. Her expression was unreadable, her face half hidden in shadow, but those eyes caught mine, even from afar. They held something that didn't belong to a hitchhiker or a stranger seeking help. And in that moment, I felt the shift. The empty road didn't feel safe anymore. I hadn't pulled over yet, but I already wished I had kept going. I found myself easing the car to a stop beside her, my grief and guilt driving the decision before logic had a chance. She climbed in without a word, her presence colder than the night, and the warmth from the heater felt suddenly inadequate. The engine's hum sounded distant, as though muffled by the tension in the car. I offered her water. She didn't respond. My words echoed in the compact space. The highway lights flickered past the window. Then the air dropped. I wrapped the blanket I kept for emergencies tighter around me. The cold pressed in, unnatural. My heart pounded. I asked where she was headed. Her voice was low, calm, but flat. Wherever you're going. And I realized I was no longer alone in the car. Something else had entered, sitting next to me, whispering of regret and wandering. It began as a quiet murmur, her voice softer than the hum of the engine. "You always drive when you're supposed to rest," she said, leaning slightly toward the dashboard light. I glanced over. She was staring at me. I hadn't told her. "You shouldn't have come from there," she continued. I froze. "The house counted you already." My throat tightened. I squeezed the steering wheel. She didn't flinch. "Funerals fill the air with things you can't breathe," she whispered, and the words settled like smoke in the car. My pulse hammered. How did she know? "They left you unfinished," she said, repeating it as though it were a lullaby. She looked down at her hands, palms up, and then back at me. "But you will complete the ride." The highway lights flickered across her face, eyes empty, skin pale. I wanted to turn the car around. Instead, I asked where she was going. She tilted her head, smile barely there. "Where you drove away from." I realized then it wasn't about a ride. It was about return, and I was already too far out to simply stop. I noticed it before I forced myself to acknowledge it. The hitchhiker's shoulders rose and fell subtly, rhythmically, but her chest remained completely still. At first I thought it was fatigue. Maybe the shock of grief had blurred my perception. Then I touched the heater vent, and the whole cabin went cold, the kind of cold that seeps into bones, not just skin. I glanced at her again. Her gaze was fixed ahead, unmoving, and I realized she never blinked. The faint highway glow flickered across her eyes, and they were empty, or too filled, with something I couldn't name. I swallowed hard. She whispered, "You left someone behind. I'm here to bring them home." My hand gripped the wheel tight. I said, "Who are you?" Her voice softened. "I am the one you refused to carry." The road outside streamed by, but I felt trapped in motion. I jerked the wheel, and the car fishtailed. The hitchhiker didn't flinch. She leaned closer, and the heater shut off completely. She turned slightly toward me, that same unsettling calm in her voice. "Do you want to see them again?" she asked. The words came not as a question, but as an offer and a warning. My blood froze. I could feel the weight of what she meant, though I dared not speak. Her voice wasn't human. It echoed in the cabin like something hollowed out and reshaped into speech. My fingers tightened on the wheel. "What do you mean?" I managed. She only smiled. "The ones you couldn't carry. The ones left behind. I can show them to you." The highway outside stretched into nothingness. I realized the rules had changed. I was no longer just driving. I had broken the rule. You don't pick up the ones already gone. And now they were riding shotgun. My heart thundered as I hit the brake and steered off the highway into the gravel shoulder. The car skidded half a length before I slammed the door open and fled. I heard the engine still singing behind me, running. I sprinted into the darkness without glancing back. My foot struck something cold, and the gravel sprayed up behind me. I didn't stop. I didn't breath. All I knew was to run until the lights of the station disappeared, until the asphalt turned to dirt and I left the road behind. I could still feel her presence in the passenger seat, even though I'd abandoned the car. I didn't look back, and I never will. By morning light, I returned to where I'd left my car. It was gone. Hours later, I found it abandoned miles away, doors open, heater still on its lowest setting, and no sign of the hitchhiker. The seat belt hung loose, as though it had just been released. I reported it to the police, but they found nothing. No footprints, no CCTV, no witness. I keep driving now, always watching that one working light in the distance, always wondering if she's waiting under it, waiting for me. The road is different now. I'm different now, and I'll never pick up a stranger again. If you ever see someone standing alone under a highway light, keep driving. They aren't waiting for a ride. They're waiting for you. Subscribe our channel for more videos. Thank you for watching.